Welcome. We're live. And this time I was able to do it on landscape mode. So let's try this way this time. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Camila from Pies and Tacos, and we're gonna make macarons together today. It's working, yes. Okay, let's get started then. Hi. Let's see if I can see the chat, everything. Hey, hey, hey. All right. So we're gonna make macarons using the Swiss method with my recipe. The ingredients are down below if you wanna bake along, and the tools. I did a live last week and it was awesome. You guys are so fun. And so I decided to do another one. I did a poll on my stories, and the live that won was, hello from Miami. The live that won was to make macarons, 2 different colors from the same batch. So that's what we're gonna do today. Hi, Lena. Friend Lena. All right, so let's get started. Do you have your ingredients ready if you're baking along? I'm still gonna do a few things here so you have a little bit more time to gather everything if you want. Let's start by, so I have all my ingredients measured out over here. I'm gonna start sifting the almond flour and powdered sugar together. I could have sifted this before, but I get a lot of questions about the sifter that I use and about what's left on the sifter, if people should discard that or if they should add more dry ingredients to make up for if a lot of ingredients are left behind here. So let's just talk about that a little bit. So here I have my powdered sugar. I'm gonna put it in the sifter. Yay! Welcome, welcome. And my almond flour. I use Blue Diamond almond flour. It's my favorite. I cannot use anything else. I used to use Bob's Red Mill, but I don't know, over the years, maybe they changed it. It got a little bit too thick for me. Or maybe I just changed my preference. So here I'm gonna sift the almond flour and the powdered sugar. I do have a link for the sifter. The sifter is awesome. I actually bought a new one this week because the one I had, the same one as this, the one I had was getting a little bit old, so I got a brand new one. I like to leave my sifter for almond flour and powdered sugar just for making macarons, so I don't get any, you know, particles, grease particles in there from other types of food. So this is what I like to do. I like to use a whisk to push through. The sifter is very fine. As you can see, it has a double mesh. It's very fine. So at the end, you should end up with something like this in your sifter. Not too much. If you end up with too much almond flour left over in the sifter, I recommend that you get a different sifter, or a different almond flour, sorry. You get a different almond flour, a brand of almond flour that is fine and dry, and you won't have a lot of leftover in your sifter. Because if that's happening, other issues are going to come with it, like the almond flour may be oily or too wet. It's just not proper for macarons, which is why I recommend getting an almond flour that's super fine. Blue Diamond is the best. It's finely sifted. It is my favorite. That's the one I use. Okay. Hello, hello. So nice to see a lot of people that I talk to a lot in the comments and over DMs, to see you guys here. Okay, so I have my almond flour and powdered sugar sifted, and now the next thing that I'm gonna show you that I like to do always and not skip is to clean my trays and my bowls and everything that I'm gonna use with vinegar. So I just get a little piece of paper towel, and I just get a little bit of vinegar, and we just wipe it down. This helps eliminate any grease particles that might be in the mat or in the bowls. The grease particles are very bad for macarons because they weaken the protein bonds. Whoa, hello from Madagascar. That's so cool. Hello. Thank you for coming. And I'm also going to wipe the bowl. I already wiped my other mats that I'll be using over there. So just the vinegar tip is just such a good tip, you know, can just eliminate some issues that could arise from just the grease particles getting in contact with your meringue and with your macaron. Yes, I am so excited. Awesome. And I will be baking macarons in my little countertop oven with a little tray. And I'll also be baking a batch on my large oven. But for my large oven, I do need to rest the macarons before I bake them. So what we're gonna do is that we're going to make the batter. I'll pipe the macarons, they need to rest. And we'll try to let them rest, see if they can get dry in time for us to bake them today. And we'll pipe the ones in the little tray and we'll bake them right away. Okay, so let's start making the meringue. We'll go over there on my stove area so we can make the meringue together. So I'll bring it over here. So I'm doing this on the weekend because a few people asked if I could do it on the weekend because they couldn't catch the live on the weekday. It's good to do a few different days. Is it good? Can you see? Good. Okay, so here I have, oh, I forgot to bring my water to a boil. So you need the water from the pan that you're going to do the double boiler. You need it to be at a bare simmer. So the water shouldn't be like bubbling too much, shouldn't be boiling too hard. It should be at a bare simmer. And you also don't want the bottom of the bowl that you're gonna use to be touching the water. So you only need about like an inch of water or so. Let's take a little bit out so we can boil this a little bit faster. All right, so meanwhile, while we let that water come to a boil, let me just show you here my ingredients that we'll be using for the meringue. And I'll talk a little bit about the egg white powder too. Let me know if you prefer me to do the live on landscape or if you prefer on portrait. So next time maybe I can do it on portrait. I feel like on portrait is just easier to show everything, but this is good too. Okay, let's do it like this. This is our almond flour that we sifted earlier. So this is the bowl I'll be using for the sugar and the egg whites. So here I have my sugar measured out. I'll put it in the bowl. And I'm adding egg white powder to the sugar, to my macarons. Egg white powder is optional. You don't have to use egg white powder. It doesn't work for some people. Portrait, please? Yes, okay, I'll do portrait next time. It was easier for me too. I feel like this is just too wide, but it's not tall enough. Okay, so I put my egg white powder with the sugar and I'm going to whisk the egg white powder and the sugar together to eliminate any clumps. What happens is that if you just put the egg white powder in and then you put the egg whites in, it's going to make the egg white powder clump up once you add the egg whites. So you don't want to do that. So do give it a little whisk. Egg white powder is optional. What does egg white powder do? So egg white powder, basically we're using it to help make our meringue more stable by just adding protein to it. Because the egg white powder, it's just dehydrated egg whites. That's all that is. The ingredients are 100% dried egg white powder. Will it still work if I live in a dry desert area to use egg white powder? I don't recommend using egg white powder if you live in a dry area. So I used to live in New York, and during winter time, it got really dry inside the houses because we had the heat on the whole time. And if I used egg white powder, it would make the macarons lopsided or super dry and crunchy. You couldn't even you bite into it and it's just crunchy, didn't get soft. So I don't recommend using egg white powder if you're in a dry climate. But then again, experiment. It depends on other aspects of your recipe and of your method. So what I recommend is that you just experiment with it. But most likely, it's not really good for dry climates. It's good for humid climates, for example, because so the sugar in the meringue is going to draw moisture out of the air and is going to absorb it into the meringue. So if you're adding the egg white powder, which is just protein without extra water, you're kind of making up for that water that's going to be absorbed, which is going to make your meringue just better and more stable. And also the extra protein is also going to help with the walls of protein that are formed, that are holding the air bubbles and the water particles in place, which is what forms the meringue. And the sugar just gets melted in this syrup that also helps keep everything in place. I explained this in detail with all the scientific explanations about this on my blog when I talk about meringue, and tomorrow I'm posting an article about egg white powder that also goes into the scientific aspects of it. I will post it tomorrow. If you're subscribed to my blog, you'll get it on your email. So the water is boiling actually. So we're gonna reduce it here. Can you see it? Good. All right, so now that we have the water already boiling, we're going to add the egg whites. Just need it to be a little bit lower. Okay, we're going to add the egg whites in. And we're going to whisk. So we're only gonna whisk this for like a couple of minutes, maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes. It depends on the temperature of the egg whites before you added them in, and it depends on how high the simmer is. All we're looking to do here is to melt the sugar with the egg whites. So we're just gonna whisk for a couple of minutes until the sugar melts. Another question that I get a lot is if I use room temperature eggs when making macarons. And I don't use room temperature eggs when making macarons. I use them straight from the fridge, unless, you know, this ones I separated earlier, so they've been sitting here for a little while. So it is a little bit more room temperature. But I don't do that because we're gonna hit up the sugar over the sugar and the egg whites over the double boiler. All right, so let's see. And to test if the sugar is melted, you kind of just touch it with your finger. That if you don't feel any sugar granules, it's done. There is still some sugar granules, so I'm just gonna keep whisking a little bit longer. And we're going to get started. When I mix it, turn into such a thick paste. That's weird. Hello, hello. Oh my gosh, it's 12 and I thank you for coming. Hey, hey. Okay, let's continue to whisk this. You don't want to let the eggs sit here because if they get into contact with the walls of the bowl, they might cook because the walls of the bowl are going to be hotter. Okay, so let's see. Let's test if the sugar is melted. Yep, it is. Okay, we're gonna take it out of here. I'm just gonna get rid of this boiling water because I don't want to just adding more humidity into the air. It's very humid here today. And now we're gonna go over here. I'm gonna move you guys to this side of the kitchen. All right, so we can make our meringue. All right. Okay, good. So now we have our meringue, our syrup. I like to wipe the bowl down with a cloth to dry the water so no water gets into contact with your syrup. We're gonna transfer it. And we're gonna begin wiping. So we're gonna start on low. I'm gonna start on speed 2 of the Kitchenaid if you have a Kitchenaid. And we're gonna do this for about 30 seconds. We're just gonna get things going for now. And then we're gonna start to increase the speed as we go. So let's do just a few seconds here. Just a little bit. Let the meringue get started, and then you can start to increase the speed. I'm gonna put on speed 4 now. And we're gonna leave on speed 4 for another 2 minutes or so. So it's really good to whip the meringue at a lower speed. I used to whip it on medium high or high, but now I do a slower speed. I feel like it's more stable. It's a more stable meringue. It also, I feel like it helps with hollow. So if you have hollow issues with your macarons and you're whipping your meringue too fast, you might want to consider turning the temperature down. When you whip the meringue too fast, you're adding too many air bubbles too fast to the meringue. So that's not going to create a very stable structure. So you do want to take it slow for a very stable meringue. The meringue is the foundation of your macarons. So very important to get the meringue right, to practice it, to know what it's supposed to look like, to know how it works for you. For me, it takes me about 10 to 13 or 15 minutes to whip the meringue, depending on how long I leave it on speed 4. Some people I've seen, they like to whip on speed 4 the whole time. That takes way too long for me. So I bring it up to speed 6 in a little bit. And that works fine for my shells. So it takes me about 10 to 15, 13 minutes. But for some people, it can take way less time. Like my friend Lena, who's watching by the way, whipping the meringue on the same mixer. She uses this recipe. It takes her 7 minutes, I think she told me last time. So it depends on where you are, the quality of the eggs that you're using, the climate, just everything. Everything's going to come into play. So it's that instead of focusing on how long you should be whipping the meringue, it's best if we focus on what is the consistency that the meringue should have. So that's what we're going to do. So let's leave it there for another minute or so. I'll take a look over here to see if you guys have any questions that I can answer for you, because it's going to take a little bit of time. What's the difference between using a glass bowl and the Kitchenaid metal bowl? People say that metal is better for whipping meringue. I love this bowl. I just love it so much. But I do use my Kitchenaid bowl sometimes too. Lena, 5.5 minutes sometimes. See, so it depends. So if it takes you a little bit longer, if it takes you less time to whip the meringue, it's totally normal. What you should look for is the consistency of the meringue to know if it's ready or not. So now we're gonna raise the speed to 6. If you can see here, no, it's not speed 6 for the whole time. I whipped on speed 2 for about 30 seconds, then I whipped on speed 4 for a couple of minutes. I'm not sure how long it was. And now I'm raising to speed 6, and now we're gonna whip on speed 6 until it reaches stiff peaks. As you can see, it's like a thick soup right now, the meringue. I can show you here. It's like a thick soup. It's getting white in color, and it's gonna start to gain volume. Hi. Sima, hello, hello. And the colors I'll be making today, I will do a lilac with a powder from the Sugar Master Elite. And I'm also going to do a coral red. So those are the two colors that I'm doing. Speed 5 on Kenwood. Yeah, if it's a different, this is a Kitchenaid. If you're using a different machine, it's going to be a different speed probably. And even from Kitchenaid to Kitchenaid, it's also different. It depends on how long you've had that machine and how often you use, how you take care of it, and all of that. Hi. Hello, hello. So as you can see, the meringue is starting to get glossy. Let me show you. The meringue is starting to get glossy. So we just gotta keep our eye on the meringue. We don't wanna over whip the meringue because we don't want to add too much air to it. I feel like the over whipped meringue will produce a very tall feet, the furry feet, and the shells are often delicate on top, often hollow as well if you over whip the meringue. So you definitely want to keep your eye on the meringue so you whip it just until it's ready. The door opens. Bothering me. Hi. Glass bowl over the memory is better. Yes, that's a good question. For the double boiler, I always use a thick glass bowl because I used to use a stainless bowl that was like a thin stainless bowl, and I feel like oftentimes, like a few times, I cooked the egg actually because the bowl got so hot. The walls are so thin of the bowl. So what I like to use is a glass bowl. It takes just longer to heat up, and it's not gonna let your egg whites cook. So I do like to use the glass bowl for doing the water bath. Olá, Vera, beijinhos de Londres. Em português. Dia eu faço uma live em português. One day I'll do a live in Portuguese. Bake in Portuguese with you guys. It's good. So the meringue is forming. It's coming together nicely. As you can see, still not ready, but it's getting there. You gotta be patient with the meringue. And hello from Italy. Can you say hi? Hello, Francesca. Francesca. I like that name. And also, I hope you're already preheating your oven. I preheat my oven for a long time. I started preheating my oven, I think it was 9:30, because my oven is very unstable. It doesn't keep a constant temperature. It's very hard to keep the temperature from shooting up and going down. It just does that naturally, even without opening the door. So I do a few things to make my oven a little bit more stable. One of the things that I do to make my oven a little bit more stable is that I preheat it for a long time. That's gonna help with the temperature fluctuations. And also I put a pizza stone on the bottom of my oven. I can show you here. I put a pizza stone on the bottom of my oven that also helps with the temperature fluctuation. The pizza stone in the oven. What temperature should we try to keep the oven at? So this one I have right now, it is set to 310. In the front is 310. In the back is almost 300. And that's because this oven, I used to bake my macarons at 325 in New York. But this oven will not, I'm not able to bake at that temperature. I've tried, I cracked my macarons. This oven, I don't know if it's the oven off, of course. The temperature starts shooting up all the way to 350. So there's no way I can bake my macarons on this oven at 325. So I'm using 310. So it's good for you to experiment and see what temperature works best for you. On the little oven, I have the oven set to 290. Hold on, because I did not set it to 290. Okay, I have the oven set at 290, and inside the oven is about 280, 285. So the meringue is coming. Let's take a look at it. It's almost ready. I don't think it's ready yet, but let's look at it. So the reason why I said I think it's ready, I'll show you why I started checking the meringue now. As you can see here, can you tell that the meringue is kind of fluffy around the whisk? It's kind of like balling up around the whisk. So that's why I'm gonna start checking it. Okay, so let's see if this meringue is done. So I take the whisk off, I try to swirl it around the bowl, and lift it. To me, this meringue is way too soft. The peak that is pulling is way too long. And when I do this, I don't feel enough resistance. This is one of the tell signs for me is when I swirl the whisk around inside the bowl, I should feel some resistance. I'm not feeling it here, and the peak is way too long, so I'm gonna whip it a little bit longer. All the way to 6 again. So right now it's really important to just continue to pay attention to it, so we don't overwhip at this point, because it's almost there. My meringue is hard but doesn't gather inside the whisk. Should I stop? I'm so sorry, Genevieve. I don't really know what that would mean. If you can send me a picture later, I can try to help you. All right, let's take a look now. It was only a little bit, but we don't want to overwhip. So it's good to stop every 30 seconds or so to check, so we don't overwhip the meringue. So now I do feel a little bit of resistance. Let's take a look at the peak. To me, still a little bit too soft because it's curving too much. It's okay to have a little bit of a curvature at the top, but this is a little bit too much. And I also look at the bottom of the whisk, and if the bottom of the whisk doesn't have like really defined waves, it's kind of, too soft, I will whip a little bit longer. I want the waves to be a little bit more defined. So I turn it down to 4 because I really don't want to overwhip at this point. I feel like we're almost there, and I don't want to overwhip it, so we're gonna go slow right now. All right, just a little bit longer. Don't take your eyes off of it. Yes, Jamie said, so nice of you to take you step through the process. It's like a quick class. Yes, I love to do classes, where like a Zoom class, like my friends do, like Nicole from Bake Toujours do. I think they have the people that are participating with their videos also, so everybody so I can help you, guide you better as you're doing it with me. So that's also a nice idea. Anyway, let's look at the meringue. To me, I think this meringue is ready. I feel some resistance when I swirl the whisk. The bottom has some nice waves, and the tip is about 2 inches to 3 inches, and it's a nice tip. It's shooting straight up. It's not really bending down to the side. So this is a nice meringue. Another way that you can tell is also how the meringue falls when you do this back into the bowl. If it falls into one big elastic like portion, or if it falls into chunks. This is perfect the way it's doing here. See, it's not falling into one big long like chunk of meringue, and it's also not separating into small chunks. It's just fluid. It's really nice. It's soft, has nice defined waves. I don't know if that tip made sense for you guys. I have a Kitchenaid. I was on the same speed on mine, went so much quicker. See, it depends on your weather. It depends on the quality of your eggs, everything. Let's get this mixer out of the way here so we can do the macaronage. All right, guys, here we go. Let's do the macaronage. So now this is the part where we're gonna split the colors. Okay. So here I have the meringue whipped, the dry ingredients. We're gonna put them right in. And now I'm gonna grab a spatula, and we're going to mix just until the dry ingredients have incorporated. Please save this live. Yeah, it will be saved. It will be there later. You can watch on my YouTube. You can watch my live that I did last week also. It's all there on YouTube And once I'm done, it will automatically save and post to YouTube. So here I'm stirring, as you can see, and we're just going to do it until we have no more dry ingredients left. So gently, just kind of stir, and you want to stop as soon as you don't see any more white meringue and any more chunks of dry almond flour or powdered sugar. So that's it. Stop mixing. Now we're going to get another bowl so we can make the 2 different colors. So if you want to make 3 different colors, 4 different colors, you get as many bowls as you want. However, if you're using this is a single recipe. This is a single recipe, so I don't recommend making a lot of colors out of this because you have just a tiny little bit. It might be good for like making little details if you're making shapes or something, but if you want to make actual, you know, shells, you want to do more than just like a little bit, you know. So I don't recommend dividing this between too many colors. I feel like a single batch would be good for maybe 3 colors, maybe 4 colors if you don't want to have too many shells. Here you go. So I'm gonna just split it. You can weigh your bowl before, and then you can just divide it by using a scale, and you can put this on the scale, see how much the batter weighs, and divide it exactly. I'm not gonna do that, I'm just gonna eyeball it, but you can definitely do that. All right, so I'm just gonna eyeball it, a few spoonfuls, special spoons of batter here, a few here, and now let's work with this batter first. I'm going to cover this one with a towel so that it doesn't dry. So we have our batter, it's semi-mixed. So now that we're gonna add our food coloring, we don't want, let me just cutting my head off. But now that we're gonna add the food coloring, we don't wanna mix it too much because it's already been a little bit mixed. Can I double the recipe to make a bigger batch? Yes, you definitely can. I almost always, not today because I'm doing the live, make a double batch or even a triple batch. I don't make a triple batch too often. I make 1.5 batches. I do that a lot, all the time, because it just makes a little bit more macarons. So I'm gonna start with the lilac. Yeah, and if you wanna double the batch, all you have to do is just use double the ingredients. And if you want to half the batch also, just half the ingredients. So this is the powder by the Sugar Art. I'm only going to add a tiny little bit because this stuff is really powerful. This is a great alternative if you don't want to use gel food coloring in your macarons and you want to obtain a deep color. Some people they cannot add a lot of food coloring and have their batter be okay, so this is a nice alternative for that. So I only added probably 1/16 of a teaspoon. It was very little bit for half of the batter. So now we're going to stir this. We're going to do the macaronage. Now stir, fold. Stir. Working with a double batch now. Hi Deborah, she's working with a double batch. That's great. Yeah, I do a double batch all the time. I like to have lots of macarons for the pictures that I make and stuff like that, so I like to make double batches. So here we're stirring. The way I'm folding is just I'm cutting through the middle with a spatula, going around, cutting through the middle with a spatula, going around. So they call that the J motion because you're basically drawing a J with your spatula, cutting through the middle, then you go around, cutting through the middle, then you go around. So that's what they mean if somebody says to do the J fold. And like I said before, the batter has already been mixed a little bit when we added the dry ingredients, so we don't want to overmix it at this point, so be very careful. And I'm also going to press the batter against the walls of the bowl to help eliminate any air bubbles. So just pressing. As you press it, you can definitely see some air bubbles just deflating. Now let's see if this is ready. It's nice and flowy. Here, let me bring this closer so I can show you the consistency. Okay. Nice and flowing. Flowing off the spatula nice and slowly, steady, and even after the batter breaks up, it will still continue to flow off the spatula, as you can see here. It's not going too fast. It's not going too slow. It's just a steady flow. Still going. And you can see how the batter is incorporating back with the batter that was already on the bowl. As you can see, it's incorporating nicely, but not straight away. It's taking a little bit of time to incorporate, maybe 5 to 10 seconds. So this is where I like to stop. And again, you'll see people have different, you know, they want to stop at different stages. They like to macaronage a little bit longer, a little bit less. It's up to you to play around and see what you like. And you'll find out as you keep on practicing, you'll find out what you like more. So now I'm going to put this batter in a piping bag. So here are my piping bags lined. This is a tip 12 by Wilton. And I'm going to transfer the batter to the piping bag. I really like this color, Lilac. So pretty. So I have the batter, and I'm going to put a little tie on the bag so it doesn't dry out. So the batter doesn't dry out, and also when you're piping, it won't come out through the top. This is okay because it's a big piping bag and it's just a little bit of batter, but it does help. So here we have our first lilac batter is ready. We're gonna set this aside and work with the coral red batter. I love the silicone bags. I love the silicone bags too. I really like them. They're very nice. So now we're gonna do the coral batter. That's cutting my face, I just want to show you. So this is the gel food coloring by Meringue color. I'm just gonna add a little bit. I haven't used this color before, so I'm not sure about it. Do you prefer aluminum or steel pens? Aluminum pens, all the way. Steel pens, they just don't work for me. They make my macarons crack. Steel is, so aluminum is a better heat conductor than steel because it just heats up faster, it heats up more evenly, and it loses heat faster than steel also. So it's a little bit more stable in a way to bake macarons. I'm watching from Mexico. Hello, hola, hola. Okay, so we're going to fold the batter. I like the color. It's kind of like a pink. How long can the batter wait before piping, please? A long time. If I'm making like shapes, sometimes my batter will rest there for like 2 hours because making shapes, you know, takes a long time, and the batter is fine. So you can let it rest for a while. So here I'm folding the batter. Here, I'll put the camera up here so I can, in your convection oven, do you use aluminum pans also? Yes, I did buy a little steel pan for the little convection oven. Did not work. I posted about it on my stories. It was not good. Is this good? Can you guys see it? Sorry guys, just trying to fix a good way. You can see it, right? All right. Here doing the macaronage. What do you think about color mill, which is oil-based? I use that for, somebody told me to use it for chocolate, so I got it for chocolate. It was really nice for chocolate. I would not use it for macaron because, like I said before in the beginning, the oil is going to weaken the protein structures because the proteins are going to want to bond with the oil. So it's going to destroy your meringue. So I don't recommend doing that. So here we have this batter. What was the question? And the humidity area, resting is not good at all. It's very humid here and I do have to rest the macarons. So that's not necessarily true. It depends. So I do have a dehumidifier. And I do have the AC on, but it's still pretty humid in here. It was 54%. So that's not low humidity necessarily. It's not really, really high. But if you do have a very high humidity and your oven does not, if you can't do no rest, depending on the oven you have and the pans you have, I recommend that you get like a fan or something like that, or a dehumidifier that will allow for you to rest the macarons. So here, as you can see, the batter is nice. I was talking, forgot to show, but the batter is nicely incorporating back with the batter that's already in the bowl. I'm going to transfer it to a piping bag so we don't stir anymore, so we don't end up over macaronaging. Okay. All right, so let's transfer this to the bowl, to the piping bag. It's also fitted with a Wilton 12. And I'm going to put the little bag tie, and we're all set to start piping. So whenever I rest, I don't get fit at all, but I'm using the same batter for no rest, almost perfect macarons. I don't know, maybe just mine. Yeah, that's how it is with macarons, you know, it's not one size fits all at all. It works differently for everybody. It's crazy. You can be using the same recipe and it just, can you see? Can you see it nicely? Yeah. I do prefer doing the portrait mode. It's so much easier to show everything. Okay, we're gonna start piping. Oh, let's pipe I'm gonna pipe this one first because I'm gonna let it rest so we can put it in the large oven. I'm only gonna do a small batch so it can dry faster, because it does take a long time to dry here. So place the batter in the center of the circle template at a 90-degree angle and just apply pressure to release the batter. And at the top you can just do a little flick. There you go. Let's do a little bit of the other color. This one too. Now, pipes to shells. We're going to tap. You can tap on the counter. I think that's a little bit too loud, so I like to tap on the bottom like this. That helps pop any air bubbles. And I also like to use a little toothpick or a little cake pick to poke any air bubbles that might still be on the surface of the shells, so you don't have bumpy shells. So just quickly. And we're gonna let these macarons rest. These are the ones that we're going to try to bake in the large oven. I hope they rest in time, because sometimes I do have to leave them for a long time resting, like hours. Before I had the dehumidifier, I left it for like 3 hours one time. And I don't have the dehumidifier on right now because it's so loud. So here are the macarons. We're gonna let them rest. And now we're gonna pipe the little tray so we can bake this. Oh, put this one closer. Good. All right. Let's see. this one. All right. Okay, now we're gonna do the same thing. There's high humidity here. Crack max. Before you got a dehumidifier. So somebody said that before they got a dehumidifier, they would crack their macarons. They live in Miami. Yeah, so a dehumidifier can really help. Or if it's really humid and you don't want to rest your macarons, it's not working for you to rest them, you can try the oven drying method by the Sugar Bean. I think you can find it on her channel. I think she preheats the oven to something really low, like 230 Fahrenheit or something like that. And then she just pops the macarons in there for a little bit and then raises the temperature. So that low temperature acts like a drying period for the macarons. So it helps dry the shells. So maybe check with Sugar Bean on her YouTube channel and look for her oven drying method. You can try that too if you're in a high humidity and you don't want to rest your macarons. Here, let's just put another couple air bubbles. So this ones we're going to bake in the little small oven. And as you can see, I have my tray upside down. And the reason for that is because the rims, they interrupt the airflow. So if you have like a rimless tray like this, it will just allow for the heat to be distributed evenly. There will be no barriers to it, redirecting the heat and making it go all crazy. So this is how I like to do it. So we're gonna go over there in the little oven and put this in. Let's go. Here we go. My little oven. I don't know if you can see it really well. It's okay. I'll move you in a second. So let's just put it in. And I'm gonna set the timer to maybe 6 minutes. Let's try 6 minutes. Okay, so there they are, the little oven. It's a Ninja 10-in-1. 10-in-1, I think is the name of it. Foodie 10-in-1 or something like that. It's really nice. I like it. I really like this little oven. So we're gonna let it bake and we'll come back to it to check if it's done. We have a little bit more batter, so I'm gonna pipe that. I wanted to see if you had any questions. Take guts to oven dry them. Yeah, I haven't tried oven drying yet. I should try oven drying. Yeah, I used the Sugar Bean method, but get cracks recently. Yeah, you're gonna have to like start changing a couple things in your method or in your recipe to see if it's something else maybe with your oven. It's just, it takes so much experimenting, a lot of experimenting. So you can make a batch of macarons, pipe it into different trays and bake those different trays all differently. So you can maybe with one of them, you can try the oven drying method. You can try the oven drying method at a different temperature, or you can try resting them, not resting them, baking with aluminum tray or with a steel tray if you want. Like I said, I don't like the steel trays, but I know people that like it. For example, Barb from the Sweet Mac shop on Instagram, she uses steel pans. I can use them. I tried a few different ones. I recently got one for my little oven because it's a steel pan that doesn't have the rims. So, and I tried that one, but it cracked. And I tried using it on my big oven. It also cracked. I made your recipe no rest, it flops, no feet. Why did that happen? It could be your oven. So for me to do the no rest in the big oven does not work, even if I use the Airbag tray. So it doesn't work for everybody to do the no rest. Or it could be also an unrelated issue that wasn't because of that. That was like an issue with your meringue or something, and that happened. So I don't try just one time, try different times, try it other times and try with like maybe a different meringue consistency. Another thing that I recommend is to always take pictures of your meringue and take pictures of your macarons, of the, like a video of the macaronage at the final stage, because that's gonna help so much if you wanna like troubleshoot and go back and try to see what you did that you could have done differently. So it's really, really useful for you to take pictures. Let's see. I had also somebody asked about why water-based food coloring wasn't good, why it had to be gel in the beginning, and I didn't get a chance to answer the question. It's because the water-based is just gonna add more water to the batter, so it's not always reliable. Some people use it, like Michelle from Michelle's Macarons, she uses on hers, and I think the last video I saw that she was using, she was saying a disclaimer. She's like, this works for me. Okay, I've tried, it works for me. And that's how it is with macarons. You know, something that doesn't work for you might work for somebody else and vice versa. So just experiment and try things if you feel curious about them. For how long can the batter wait before piping, please? A long time. It can stay here for like a couple hours. One time I even said that on my last live because I got that question also. I left my batter for like 6 hours. We went somewhere, we came back, then I piped and I baked, and the macarons are beautiful, and they were full. Can you do a no rest with a non-convection oven? Yes, back in New York, I did no rest with the regular oven that I had, but I used this trays. Hold on, I'm gonna get it to show you. These are the Airbag Trays. I learned this from Nicole and Tiana on Instagram. They both use it. They do lives and they do classes showing how to use this tray. Unfortunately, I have 3 of these trays, but unfortunately I cannot use them on this oven. They will not work. They are insulated, so in the bottom they have like a pocket of air. So they heat up really slowly. And the reason why they work is because since they're heating up slowly, the macarons are not getting, they're not being blasted with the heat at first. They're heating up slowly, so that acts a little bit like the drying time that the macarons would need. So you can try the Airbag tray if you want, if you want to do the no rest but you're having issues. Michelle always seems to really whip her meringue. Not sure if that's because she does French. Yeah, I don't. Some people really like a very, very stiff meringue. Also, my friend Barb from the Sweet Mac shop, she's like that. She likes her meringue to be on the stiff side. So it depends. Experiment and find out what works for you. Any advice for Holo Macarons? For Holo Macarons, oh, yes, let's talk about Holo Macarons, but let's see our macarons for a second. Ruby, hello, welcome to the live. Okay, so as you can see, can you see? Let me try to lower you down. Can you see the feet are forming? You see that? And I gotta put the timer again. So let's do another, let's do another 5 minutes to check if we gotta rotate them or something. Oh, so this is the thing with this oven. Sometimes I have to rotate the macarons and sometimes I don't have to rotate them. So I take a look at them, and if I see that they are baking kind of lopsided, I will rotate them, but they don't seem to be lopsided, so I'm just gonna leave them. I rather leave them so I don't have to open the oven and lose a bunch of heat. So I'm just gonna leave them and not rotate. So let's talk about Holo Macarons. So Holo Macarons, I get that question all the time. It depends on what kind of Holo Macarons you have. If your macarons have only like a little gap between the feet and the top, but the top is sturdy enough and it's not, you know, super fragile and it's not breaking when you bite into the macaron, I wouldn't worry about that. That's okay. It's okay. The macarons will probably fill up after you let them mature with the filling in the fridge. However, if your macarons have a fragile top, and if when you bite into them they just crumble and crack and dissolve, and they're super fragile, if that's what's happening and they're hollow, then you could have a meringue issue. Oftentimes I find that overwhipped meringue causes that. You know, because overwhipped meringue is broken, it's not as strong because you whipped it too much, so you ruptured some of the protein structures that were in the meringue, which is why it looks chunky. And that an unstable meringue is gonna give you an unstable shell that might be hollow. So that could be the reason why your macarons are hollow. It could be because you're over mixing. For example, with vegan macarons, most of the times when the macarons are hollow, it's because it's been overmixed. So easy to overmix vegan macaron batter. So it could be overmixing, it could be your oven, it could be you're baking at a too high temperature, or you're baking at a too low temperature, not baking enough, so it doesn't give enough time for the inside of the macarons to bake and form. So it could be a lot of things for Holo Macarons. I do have an article about it that I talk about all the causes that could be, all the changes you can make to your macarons to try to troubleshoot it. And I recommend just doing like one change at a time. This way you'll be able to pinpoint what was the issue. And also, like I said before, just take pictures of it. It just is so helpful. Where do you recommend have your rack in the oven, middle or bottom? So that one is in the middle, the little oven, and my big oven's also in the middle. So I guess in the middle, but it depends on your oven, it really does. You getting lopsided macarons, but are you getting lopsided macarons because of the mat? Have you tried washing your mats really well? You know, clean them with vinegar, let them soak in a vinegar, soap, and water solution, and then maybe try again, let them dry and try again with them, with the mats. Lopsided macarons can happen because of the oven. So if the oven has uneven heat distribution, the macarons are gonna raise on one side and not on the other side. So that can happen, which is why on the big oven, for example, I always rotate the macarons. Otherwise that would be inevitable. But on the little oven, I don't always have to do it. I'm gonna go take a look at them. Here, I'm gonna just, can you see? Okay. Yes, they're not lopsided, they're baking nice. They have a nice lift, they're baking very nicely. So I'm not going to rotate these macarons, but they do need more time. So I'm gonna let's do another 6 minutes. Since the temperature is a little bit lower on this little oven, it can take a little bit longer. So I think last time that I baked in this oven on the live, I think it was 23 minutes, I wanna say, that took to bake. I don't really remember. Okay. Also, there was another question up there that I missed. Somebody asked how long they can stay in how long the macarons can stay in the freezer. So if you have just the plain shells that you're freezing, they can stay for a long time, like 2 months. Some people leave it longer, like 3 months. So you can do for a long time. And if the macarons are filled, if they're filled with something like a buttercream or ganache, you can leave them for 1 to 2 months. But if they're filled with something like jam or curd or something really wet, that's going to make the shells wet. It can make the shells soggy if you leave them for too long. So there's a few tricks you can do for that. One thing you can do is you can brush the shells, the bottom of the shells with chocolate and let it dry, and then fill the macarons. That's gonna that's going to add like a barrier, a protection. You could do that with buttercream also. You could put a layer of buttercream, let it dry, and then fill the macarons, because that's gonna like create a protection. Or you can make your jam or your curd extra thick. So if you're making it yourself, just add more cornstarch to the jam. Or if you're making the curd, just cook it a little bit longer without, you know, overcooking the egg in the curd, of course. I tried a batch on Teflon and it turned out good. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, Teflon can work for some people. For me, it doesn't work, but it can work for some people, for sure. Convection oven, French or Swiss, do you find the results are different, or the one method works better than the other? I haven't done French in a long time, so I haven't done French method here in this house with the little convection oven, so I'm not sure. I'll have to brush up on my French skills. Do you bake one tray at a time? Yes, I do bake one tray at a time, always, 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 because otherwise one of the trays is gonna crack. All lined up. For better heat distribution, staggered arrangement piping is better, or all lined up makes no difference. I just do it all lined up. I don't feel like it makes a difference. That could definitely make a difference depending on your oven, if the heat is too strong, or if your oven has a lot of hot spots and you put, you know, the macarons are too far apart, that could make a difference. Which is why I have 3 thermometers on my oven, 2 in the front, 1 in the center. That tells me the hot spots of the oven. So my oven's hotter in the front than in the middle. For vegan macarons, do you recommend to add in other flavor in the batter, such as matcha powder? I do add matcha powder. I have a recipe for vegan macarons with matcha powder. I tried making vegan macarons with strawberry powder and did not work. Should the macaronage be refrigerated for the next batch? No, I don't. It's sitting right here. Actually, we can pipe that too. Tried your vegan macarons. They came out all right. Some had perfect feet, some had lopsided feet, but they're from the same batch. Yeah, so that could be uneven heat distribution in your oven. So one thing you can do, let me show the tray that I have. So this helps. This is my baking tray. It doesn't have any rims, so that helps with the heat distribution. Or you can flip it upside down like I did with the little tray. That also can help with the heat distribution. I doubled the tray to experiment and they turned out better. So if you use a double tray and it helped, that can mean that your oven maybe runs a little bit too hot, or it has hot spots, because the double tray is going to act kind of like the Airbag tray, as in is not going to let the macarons just heat up super fast. They have, you know, the 2 trays are going to offer an extra protection for the heat to actually reach the macarons. Let me see. Hold on. I can't find a question that I wanted to answer. I have 2 piping bags in the batter I mix is more than what these 2 bags can hold. How can I start batter until I get the piping bags free? I would just put some plastic on top. I wouldn't even just put a towel. I would put like an actual piece of plastic, so it really seals it, so it's not exposed to air at all. Can you stack the macaron shells with parchment paper between them in the freezer? I don't put parchment paper. I always just do without parchment paper. So I don't know if I think that you can try it. If you like it better with the parchment, then definitely go for it. Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much. Thank you. Even made a reel of my favorite teachers. Oh, thank you so much. I have to check it out. I had a freeze-dried strawberry to the powder. Did not go out. It has to go in the buttercream. I do add freeze-dried strawberry to my regular batter, and it does work. So maybe it was another issue. You have to add a little bit. Don't add too much, and also be careful because it will dry the batter, and it can make the shells fragile. So you just have to make a couple adjustments to your batter. So let's take a look because the time is going. Okay. I don't think it's ready yet, but I'm gonna test it. So you just open the oven and just try to move a macaron. And if it doesn't move, if the macaron feels firm, you can remove from the oven. This is feeling very jiggly. When I try to wiggle the macaron, it felt very jiggly. So I'm gonna let it bake for a little bit longer. Put another 5 minutes. What do you look for to tell that they're done? Yeah, that's what I look for. So I try to move a macaron, and if it doesn't feel jiggly, it's done. Or you can try to touch the top of the macaron, and if it doesn't feel soft, if it feels firm, then it's also done. I have 2 thermometers in the oven. The one in the middle reads 5 degrees less than the bottom. Oven set at 305 to 310. I find having to adjust once in a while which thermometer reading to use. I'm sorry, I don't get the question. Yes, the shells were super fragile. It didn't bake properly, but still yummy. Yeah, so I think she's referring to the strawberry powder. Yeah, it can make the shells different. Did you remove any of the powdered sugar or anything like that, or did you just add on top of it? Because I do remove some of the powdered sugar, I believe. Any tips for making a brown color in macarons without cocoa powder? Brown is tricky because I find that if you just put brown, it makes it kind of look reddish. I don't know. I have to ask my expert friend, Barb. I saw you change the temperature compared to previous recipes. You recommend to bake it at 325 or lower. So like I said, my last oven, I baked at 325 and that was fine for the oven. But however, with this oven that I have, if I bake it at 325, the oven, for some reason, it just shoots the temperature up to 350 and it just wasn't good. It was cracking the macarons and it wasn't good. Hi, Casey. Hi. So should I go by the middle or bottom temperature? I don't know. It depends on what you think that your oven can withstand. Like, for example, this one, it's good for me when the temperature in the front is 310 and the temperature in the middle is around 300 or 305 or maybe 295 because it fluctuates, like I told you. So it depends. Look, somebody gave you a nice tips for the brown macarons. Chef Master Espresso color, or those other brands that I never heard about. Oh, Deborah, yeah, I never heard about that brand. And I haven't tried using the Chef Master brown. So I don't know if it's good or not. Okay, so let me take a look at the macarons that we have resting over there to see if they are done resting or not. So these are definitely not done resting. They're still, as you can see, they're still shiny. What we're looking for is that the macaron is going to look dull, and when you touch the top, it doesn't stick to your finger. This is not sticking to my finger too much, but it feels soft and it feels wet. So I have to let it rest for a little bit longer. What do you do with failed macarons? If you ever do get them still, at times maybe. So with failed macarons, I have a few recipes on my blog for failed macaron shells. One is a tart shell, like a pie crust. It's kind of like a graham cracker crust in a sense, but instead of using graham crackers, we're using crumbled macaron shells. I also have a recipe for cookies. They're really good. It's with like nut butter or peanut butter and chocolate chips, so delicious. And I also have a recipe for brownies, so you can make brownies with them. The brownies recipe is by far the most popular out of the three of them. A lot of people make them and they like it. I love the brown. Those brownies are delicious. Look, mixing red, yellow, and blue make brown. So Casey gave a nice tip, mixing red, yellow, and blue, make brown. So that could be a nice way to do brown, so you can play around with the individual colors. Because I find it that just the brown by a Mary color, I haven't tried with a different color to do that. Just the brown will make the shells look a little bit red, like a brick color, you know what I'm saying? All right, let's take a look at the macarons. I don't think they're baked yet. Let's see. Oh, they're almost there though. Let's give it another 5 minutes. I can't wait for your book. Thank you so much, Deborah. I can't wait either for my book. So excited. Thank you for the powder color commendation. The brownie is amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you. I've made your brownies delicious. Thank you. Thank you. Very good. Okay. Do you wash your sifter? I do wash my sifter, yes. I do wash it. I like to wash it with the little holes of the sink because it just gets everything out, but I do wash it. What do you do with the amount of macs you make? So the last time I made a lot of macarons, I kept them frozen and then I brought them to the hospital. The time before that, I called a couple friends that I met here and I gave them a couple boxes of macarons, and I'm gonna have to find somebody to give this macarons. But since they can stay in the freezer for like a month or so, that's good because it gives me time to try to find somebody. I'll probably just bring them to the hospital again. I really liked doing that, to the emergency room. I brought like I think it was 127 regular macarons and like 70 or something like that of the mini macarons. I brought it to the emergency room. So I like that idea a lot. Hi, Christine, my friend. Hello. Is your book still on schedule for March 22nd? Yes, March 1st, 2022. Yes, it is scheduled for March 2022. March 1st, 2022. That's when my book's coming out. This week we just wrapped everything up. We finished everything. I've been working on it since last year. Yes, I'm very excited for it. It's gonna have, I think, 50 recipes overall. Yeah, so I'm excited. Can you show us the sifter? Yes, this one sifter is dirty, but I have 2 of them. So this is the sifter that I use. It has a double mesh and it's very fine. Is it a macaron book? Yes, it is a macaron book. That's coming. It's very fine. I have a link for the sifter on down below in the description. I already put the link for my tools because last time that I was doing the live, a lot of people were asking about some of my tools. Did you ever get feedback on your flavors? Like maybe someone didn't taste like it should to them? No, never got that feedback. Can't wait to see more decorated macarons. Are you going to make any Christmas themed macarons? Yes, I hope so. I hope to make some fall ones too, and some Christmas for sure. Christmas is my favorite, so I hope so. I hope to make them. Okay, so that we still got a little bit of time. This is still a little bit dull, but for the sake of time, I'm gonna try to bake them. I can't guarantee that their feed is gonna be beautiful or anything, but we're gonna try to bake them. So let me show you. And I do notice, even with the little oven, that I don't have to rest the macarons. I do notice that if I rest them and then bake them in the little oven, they come out so much better, so much cuter. The feet doesn't have the gaps. So if I bake them straight away, oftentimes they'll have a gap between the feet and the bottom, which is not, it's just like a small thing. But if I rest them, they don't have that gap. Anyway, so I'm gonna transfer the little mat and put it in my rimless tray. This is my favorite tray to bake on my big oven. I also have a link for this tray down below. It's a rimless tray. So I'm gonna put this in the oven. I don't know if you can see. Set the timer for 6 minutes, and then I'll probably have to rotate those. And our other macarons are almost ready, so let's go take a look at them. So can you see what I'm doing here? Let me try to tell you. Let me try to show you. So this is how I'm checking. I'm doing this, trying to move. See, I'm trying to wiggle it. It's not moving. So that's one sign that it's ready. And then you can also touch the top. And if the top doesn't feel soft, you can remove it. And it's also good to test some from the back also, not only from the front, because they might bake, the ones in the middle might bake a little bit slower. So you might wanna give it a little, but to me, these are done. They're not wiggly, jiggly anymore, and they're not soft on top. So I'm gonna take them out. Oh, let's turn it off. All right, I'm gonna take them off and I'm gonna let them cool down over here. I'm gonna put them on my little rack. Let them cool down. And meanwhile, we got our other macarons baking. While those macarons cool down, I'm gonna show you something cool that I'm gonna do with the filling for the macarons. So let me just get it over here. So here I have the buttercream. What temperature for the big oven? So the big oven is right now, it's set to 310, or yeah, I think it's set to 310. The temperature in the front was 310. Now it went down a little bit because I opened the door. And the temperature in the middle is about 300. It was close to 300. Do you always leave on the pan to cool, or you put the mat off on the counter? Sometimes, it depends. I'm gonna leave it in the tray right now. So if I notice that I overbaked the macarons, I immediately take them out of the tray to cool. But if not, I don't do it. Aluminum cools down super fast too. So here I made buttercream earlier with the colors of the shells. I wasn't sure if the colors of the shells would come out the same color as the buttercream because, you know, it tends to be different sometimes for buttercream and for macaron batter. Do you preheat, right? Yes, I preheated the large oven for about an hour and a half. What was the question? Let me see. When you freeze your macarons and take them out, are they more brittle, or do you move them from the freezer to the refrigerator for a couple of hours before taking them out to serve? No, I don't. I take them, I don't put them in the fridge, not necessarily. I just take them out. You can leave them on the counter for like 30 minutes and they will soften up. Now, if your macarons aren't softening up, I have a great tip for you. Let me show you. Those are sugar bears. You put them in they're made of terracotta, I think. You put them in the sugar usually, and they help the sugar not clump up. And the reason for that is because they lend moisture to the sugar, so the sugar absorbs their moisture, and the sugar doesn't dry out or clump up. So this is what a sugar bear is. You can put this inside of your container with the macarons that are hard or brittle, and it will help them soften up because it will give the macarons some moisture. Or you can put a slice of bread in the container. Just don't let them directly touch the macarons. Put like a plastic between them and the macarons. And the sugar in the macarons is going to absorb the moisture of either the sugar bear or the slice of bread, and it's going to make the macarons soft. So that's a good tip. So now let's work on the filling. So like I said, here I have the buttercream. I made of the colors of the shells. Sounds like it's raining outside. Okay. Thank you for the tips. You are welcome. So I have two colored buttercreams. I'm going to get a piece of plastic wrap. I'm going to lay it on the counter like this. Now I'm going to get the buttercream. I'm going to spread it on this piece of plastic. You see it? Okay. I'm going to spread the buttercream here. Just a regular vanilla buttercream. So spread it. My oven, the timer went off. Now we're gonna put the other buttercream right next to it, so we can pipe a 2-color filling. Now that we've done this, all we gotta do is just roll this up into a log. And we're gonna put this inside of the piping bag. But before we do that, let's check the macarons. So I'm just gonna rotate them actually, because the timer went off, and these macarons in this oven do need to be rotated. Now I understand you might not have to do it on your oven, but I do have to do it on this one. The feet look really nice. Now I'm gonna put for another 10 minutes. The batter can wait for hours before piping at room temperature, or can it be left in the fridge? I would just leave it at room temperature. I wouldn't put it in the fridge. Okay, so now that we have our log of frosting, okay, I'm going to just cut this a little bit. And here I have a piping bag with, I think this is the 6B tip. We're going to insert the log of frosting inside the piping bag. So this way our frosting will be by color. The better. Yes. Let me see if the macarons are gonna be. This is a simple buttercream. Yes, it's just butter, sugar, milk, and vanilla. The macarons that we just made. So they're a little bit warm. So we can fill them. This one cracked. So, as you can see, they're good. Okay, now let's fill them with the buttercream. I like the feet. The feet aren't, they didn't rest or anything. So it came out super cute. See, that's why you have to wait for the macarons to cool down completely before peeling them off, because that's what happens. All right, so let me show you let's fill this. Let's see if they, let's fill this one. So now you just get the buttercream and voila. Guys, I love it. Let's do one more. There you go. We still got our other macarons baking. How many minutes to bake? The first, I don't know, did anybody time it? I did not time how long that took. I don't know how long it took. It was over 20 minutes, right? I believe. And in my big oven, it's at a little bit of a higher temperature. So it takes like 18 to 20 minutes. Some people, 21, thank you so much, Kathy. Kathy said 21, I believe. I believe it was around that too. So, there you go. So I still have my other ones baking. I can show you guys. But 23, thank you, Sabrina. So yeah, around that, 20 minutes to 23, 21, 20. My macarons don't peel off easily after cooling. Are they underbaked? Yes. Even after cooling, that means they're underbaked. So here you go, guys. Those are still baking. They're gonna be a while. They're gonna be at least another 10 minutes or so. But since I already showed you guys what the macarons look like when they're baked, just touch the top, try to move it around. If they don't jiggle, then you can remove them from the heat. Yeah, these are good. These are good macarons. I like the colors too. So, there you go. All right, guys, I think I'm gonna end the live here. Thank you so much for baking with me. If you want me to make any more videos and you have any suggestions of things you want to see me make, let me know. Sorry if I missed your questions. I'll answer more next time. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you. Thank you, Casey. Thank you. Alice, cocoa would be great to see. Yes. Let's make chocolate macarons next time then. You can make chocolate macarons. Thank you so much. Thank you, Terry, Marilyn, everybody. Parveen, thank you. Will the pizza stone help the temperature not spike? Yes, it will help. It will definitely help minimize. If you don't have a pizza stone, you can also put a little, something like a cast iron pan. I don't know if you can see it here. Like those heavy pans like this, a cast iron pan will work too. Something heavy that's gonna retain heat. Because what the pizza stone does is that it retains heat. So it acts like a radiator. So if you open the door of the oven, or if the oven is trying to keep a stable temperature, it's going to minimize the fluctuations because the pizza stone is gonna be radiating heat. So that's gonna help keep everything more stable. Okay? Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you.